not gonna be for everybody, so some people are just not gonna be
No, I
suited
get
to
that.
do that.
I get that. It's just not something you're used to.
Right, and
Wait.
thank the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How's your week going, buddy?
It's been a long one, man.
Yeah?
Yeah. Not bad. Just Kristen worked a lot this week. Which every week she doesn't work a lot. Some days, some weeks she does. So then that just means I have the boys. I don't, I just keep them and try to work with them.
Oh, yeah.
So thankfully I can work at home. And so she worked 3 days this week, and then she went to that homeschool convention she was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
So those 4 days this week that I had the boys, which is fine, but it's hard for me to do anything. I mean, I can study if they're entertained. I can put a show on. I can study, but I can't do like yard work and stuff around the house. And so it's been a long week, and then yesterday, like, she was home and I had the opportunity to do stuff, and I just had no motivation. I don't know if my blood sugar was high or, you know, I was snacky. I wanted food. I didn't want to do anything. So that's kind of carrying over to today. It's just
Yeah. My biggest problem is I go to work so early. I get up so early to go to work that when the weekend comes, I'm like ready to go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock the latest.
Yeah.
And then what happens? I get up early. I get up stupid early on Friday, Saturday. I have Friday, Saturday, Sundays off. So I get up like at 5 o'clock at the latest on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I can't go back to sleep. And I've tried. Like even if I stay up till 11 o'clock, I will still get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. It just doesn't. So I always end up having, on the weekend, I'm like, by afternoon comes, I'm like, I'm ready for a nap,
Yeah.
It's just, I know what you're saying. It's like, I just have a hard time doing anything on the weekends as far as productive like that. Because, and then during the week, it's like, I work from home 2 days a week, which is nice. It's nice being home like at 3:30 and I'm home.
Oh yeah, I bet.
But Tuesday, Wednesdays, I get home, if I have to work late, I end up getting home at 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's a long day.
Yeah. And I think just the rain the last couple of days, like, that's probably not helping me be motivated.
Yeah.
Oh well. We have another week. A new week.
We've got a lot of churn at work right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on at work right now.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, just kind of hard to do it sometimes.
Gotcha. I was going to ask you, would you be willing, you know how on Sunday nights, first Sunday nights of the month, we do Digging Deeper, and we have a facilitator?
Yeah.
Would you do that? Would you be a facilitator?
A facilitator?
Yeah. I think you'd be a good one. Not a teacher, so you got to think about it differently.
Okay, I was about to say, I don't know enough to be a
No.
to fill that role. All right.
No, that's why we use the word facilitator.
Smart move.
Because I write the questions.
Yeah.
And depending on the questions, if it's like a really pointed question where there's probably not a lot of answers, like if it's personal, like if the question is more, how do you feel about this? Well, I can't answer that for people. But if it's a question where I'm looking for a particular answer, then I provide that to the facilitators. So the facilitator is just reading the questions, trying to get people to talk. So
I'm good at that.
Not teaching.
I'm good at that.
Yeah. And we've had, some guys in the past on Sunday nights, they teach a little bit more than facilitate. So
It would probably be educational for me.
yeah.
On top of it. Yeah, I'll do it.
So just prompt people to answer. That's the hard part.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Bring a stick with you. Keep people around.
Your mic is on and you're streaming. Just wanted you to be warned. You can turn your mic off.
No.
Okay, I'm just making sure you know.
Was I saying something?
What's up?
I should-
No, I just was like, it
How
popped
you
up
doing?
on my
I'm doing good. How are you?
stream, and I was like, oh, I hope he knows.
You must have
Don't
time.
talk about me,
Living the
because
dream.
I will hear it.
So what do y'all think about Jeannie? Hello, Shelby. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
She made a comment last week. I think it was last week about talking a lot.
I've made several comments to you about talking
I know,
a
but
lot.
I said to her, I said, "Hey, game recognizes game." She thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Nah, it's all good.
No, you would be good at the discussion groups.
Oh yeah. I just gotta know when to shut up and let other people discuss, and not just keep talking.
Well, I can hit you and tell you, hey, shut up.
Paper ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quit talking.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
It is hard, especially if you teach a lot, like I feel like I do, and then you want to facilitate and want other people to answer the questions. You gotta sit back and try not to. But then it also depends on your group. You could have a group of people that just aren't talkers, and so you're like
Oh, I can.
trying to get people to talk.
That I can do. That I'm good at.
Yeah. Hey, Mike,
Hey guys,
how you doing?
just rolling along.
Well, I like it. Good. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Been trying to find a car for Garrett.
Oh, yeah.
That is like one of the most frustrating things I have done in a long time.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
What are y'all thinking about getting them?
Like a Mazda or a Honda. You know, it's a first car, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I can't buy him a new car. I'd love to buy him a new car. I would love to buy him a new car. I just don't make that kind of money, you know?
Good.
So, but it's like, I went to go look at a truck in Peachtree City, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a nice little truck. And then we get there, and no mention of this. We get there, and the guy's like, oh, by the way, it's using a little coolant, but I don't know where. And then, oh, the AC doesn't work. I ride with the windows open. I'm like, dude, really? Like, he was honest, like to a fault. But I'm like, put that in the ad,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Don't tell me it runs
Because
perfect.
now you like
Pass
wasted
the
your
mission.
day.
Well, not even the day. It's because now you start going. What else is he not telling you?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know,
Oh, well, thank you, thank
Um,
you. My favorite color, so I'm
it's got a blown
Yeah.
head. You know, it's a,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
all right. Blue's all right.
and then there's like a little info light on there.
It's
And
not
I'm
as
like,
good as
he's
red.
like, what's
Yeah, I
that?
was
I'm
about
like,
to say.
I'm going to Garrett. I'm like, we're driving around. I'm like, nope. He's like, why? I'm like,
No, my brother
it could
likes
be a blown
blue.
head gasket,
Oh, really?
anything. And
Yeah.
I'm not.
So
I'm sorry. I'm
anytime
not looking
we
for a project.
like did something like
And he's so frustrated because everything we look at, it turns
So,
into a
like,
piece
we-
of junk.
used to like
I'll
Nerf
tell Dad
guns.
to keep a lookout.
Yeah,
So just
There's
his
always
brother. I mean,
people
even like
around
older,
shopping,
like in
so-
college, you know.
Looking for like a
before we were
Honda,
married,
Toyota.
Like when we would
I'm
go
trying to
home
stay away from the
for Christmas
Nissans
something,
or like
you
an
know,
older
we would-
Nissan, like
We
anything
would
before
invest
06.
in like some nicer
Deliver
Nerf
CVT
guns.
transmission.
And we would
But,
battle.
you know, Honda, Toyota,
So my team was
Acura.
always red, so everything I have is always red. He was
Just a little
always
Japanese
blue.
car.
Okay.
Mazda,
Or, I
Mazda
don't know
3,
if
Mazda
we-
3 sedan hatchback. I don't
think
care.
of
I like
other
mine.
examples. If
Yeah.
we
I
ever
think they're
did
kinda
something where we were competing and I was ready,
Is that right?
he's always blue,
Oh
man.
my
I
god.
don't even know.
Blue's
how
always
it came about.
second place. My-
But why'd y'all end up getting Grayson?
It's always superior. It's always inferior.
So I was looking for a car for Grayson,
No,
right?
uh,
And of course,
at
Grayson
the
didn't
University
give
of North
two
Carolina.
craps about
they
a car or a license
God
until they
bless
went to
them
public
in
school.
the
And they
car.
realized everybody had a
Big the
license
sky,
and a
Carolina.
car, so he became like, he could drive anything. So my brother was driving,
Man,
my
I
brother
know.
buys and sells cars, right? Think he'd find me one.
Yeah.
He found a truck, and he bought the truck, he had a Dodge Dakota.
Yeah.
I think he paid like 45 for it, and I drove it. And I'm
Carolina.
like, perfect.
We
So
also
he's been
got
driving it since.
Nice.
Had to put a little money into it,
Ain't
fix
fired
little
yet.
stuff because it was an old. That's all we do. It's
Yeah.
got over 200,000 miles on it.
I bet he.
Second year.
I bet. Well, he didn't do good
And
first.
then Grayson wanted to get a nicer truck, and then he saw the price in it. He's like, I'm driving this till the wheels fall off. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
good man.
Girlfriend?
Yeah.
Especially for a work truck, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot. I've been hearing a lot behind that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Gotta
They
fix
hired him
it.
for
So
his
bad, but I
football expertise.
Yeah. You know.
Let's see what.
I mean, I get it, but if I was him, how old is he? I'd just go retire.
Close to
Just go
80.
live your life.
I would.
I would. But maybe he just loves the game too much. Some coaches just love the game too much.
Man, it was a major turnout when he came. The opening.
Really?
To see, oh yeah, I've never seen it like that.
Mm.
And so I was just like, oh man, we got slammed by TCU.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember.
You talking about retiring? There's an hourly mechanic that works on the flight line at Lockheed. He's 86 years old. He's been working there since 1963.
Oh,
Are you serious?
Yep, and he's got the second highest seniority. There's a guy, an electrician.
You don't want to just go retire?
No, he's
Wow.
already collecting his retirement.
Yeah.
He has to. He's had
Yeah.
to. 86 years old. He can't do nothing. He can't do anything. The fact he drives to work every day scares everyone. You know? But there's another guy. He's an electrician, like an industrial electrician at Lockheed. He's got 61 seniority, and he comes to work every morning. And he literally said, "If I stop working, I'll die."
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's what keeps it going.
Hey,
Keep the
right.
momentum.
Hey.
wow, that's impressive.
63 seniority. He got all mad because I asked him, because we build airplanes, right? I asked him what it was like to build pterodactyls. He didn't think that was funny.
What plane are you working on right now?
C-130s. Yeah, they've been building it for 100. They still can't get it right. They've been building it since 1955. They still screwed up.
And they're still flying.
Oh yeah, they are. But they still,
What's wrong with it now, after all these years?
it's not that there's anything wrong with it. It's when they build it.
Take care, man.
When they build it, like they have like a big assembly line, right?
Right.
And they have one guy doing this one job for 30 years, and he retires. And then somebody else takes over. Like if you're installing windows, guy's been doing it right for 30 years. They put a new guy there, he screws it up. So now the next, 6 airplanes he worked on are they got the wrong size rivet, or the holes are too big, or something. It happens all the time. You can always tell when somebody retires because then they end up having to go do a bunch of rework.
Life's interesting.
So last year, they only delivered 2 airplanes. They're supposed to deliver 28. 26 of them didn't work. They couldn't deliver them because they had a problem with the new radio system they put on there. They didn't test it right. So they couldn't sell them. So there's literally this year's planes and last year's planes all on the flight line. And they literally have they're literally running on the spots, which is unfathomable. I've been working there 28 years. Never seen it like that. It's incredible. I'm so glad I'm not up there anymore.
All right, good to see everyone this morning. This is our last class in our book, Life Lessons from the Book of Genesis. Hope you learned something. I know I did. It's different going through a book like Genesis, not verse by verse or chapter by chapter. Just kind of looking at it and more of just not so detailed, but just the major events that go through the book, and what do we learn from it, right? How do we apply the first book in the Bible to us, or just what are the lessons, the life lessons that we learn? So it was a different class for me. I kept feeling like I needed to be more textual and look at the text, but it wasn't the nature of this class. But our last lesson, chapter 13, blessings from a dying father. So Jacob is dying. The last 2 chapters will detail for us his conversation, his words to his sons. Chapter 49 and 50 is Jacob dying, talking to each of his sons. Chapter 48, if we back up to chapter 48, which will include, that's when Joseph learns that his father is sick. And that's more what we'll talk about here, caring for aging parents. When Joseph learns about Jacob sick, dying, he takes his 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and he goes to visit his father. And then we'll try to learn some things from his final words, his dying words to his sons. But let's think about what we've studied so far through this quarter. Look forward to next quarter, our 3 classes. If you haven't done so, open your Lightpost app, look at the 3 classes we have next quarter, and register for a class. But thinking about what we've studied in this class, chapter 1, we talked about origins of the Creator. Where did this world come from? Probably the most asked question of all time. Where did we come from? Well, there's a Creator. I believe in that. I know you do as well. The origins of the Creator. Chapter 2, the title doesn't tell us a whole lot of what we studied, but the baggage of biblical creation. And then chapter 3, the snake in the garden. Genesis chapter 3. It's Satan in the garden, Adam and Eve. How he tempted Eve, and everything that we learn from that interaction in the garden, and where sin came from. Chapter 4 was Cain and Abel, giving God your best. Giving God your best. And we looked at the sacrifices of Cain and Abel. And Cain's was not accepted, and Abel's was, and everything that happened there. And going back to Cain and Abel, just thinking about them again, two brothers. And anytime you read about Cain in the Old Testament or New Testament, you'll read about Cain. He's always associated with evil. There's never anything good said about Cain. I think that's probably the biggest problem you have with Cain and his sacrifice, is that his heart was already evil when he offered it to God. And so God's not going to accept this offering from an evil heart. And so we learned a lot, I think, from Cain and Abel. Then Genesis chapter 6, the flood. Staying afloat in a flood of evil, right? That's a major event in the book of Genesis. And so we've gone through creation, we've gone through Cain and Abel, and now we're at Genesis chapter 6, and the flood, and Noah, and everything that we learn from Noah. And then Noah, he wasn't a perfect man. None of us are. There are individuals in Scripture where we don't read about their sins. There are some that you don't read any of their sins that are recorded. However, we know that they did all sin. Romans 3 and verse 23, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But we read about Noah and his drunkenness. That was chapter 6, everything that happened when he became drunk. And then we talked about Babel, the Tower of Babel. It's probably a turning point in our history, just as far as we look at our world today. We look at our world today, thousands of years later, and we see different languages, and we see different cultures, and we just see the world as it is today. Where did that come from? Well, we could probably spend a whole lot of time talking more about the Tower of Babel and how God dispersed them, and He mixed up their languages, and that would probably be the origin. Then we talked about Abraham. Abraham, that's probably our first big, well, Noah was our first, our big name person, our character that we studied. But Abraham, God's promise to Abraham. And so we talked about Abraham, and then Isaac. And then we moved from Isaac to Jacob. And so when you look at the book of Genesis and everything that's recorded within it, you have a lot of major events, but then you have these major names, these individuals that really play into the rest of the Old Testament, into the New Testament, and the promise given to Abraham, his son Isaac, then Isaac and his son Jacob and Esau, but then Jacob the promise come through Jacob. Jacob will have the 12 sons. And then we have been talking about Joseph for the last couple of weeks. So then we're going to talk about the death of Jacob this morning and some things that happen as he dies at the end of Genesis. So that's Genesis in a nutshell. Let's think about the power of memory. Actually, before we get there, something interesting that I did. I just went to Google, and I'd have to take it for what it is, if it's true or not, but thinking about the words. So that's one of the things that we're going to think about. The final words of a dying father. That's Jacob. What does he say to his sons? Some things not so good. Some of his sons he didn't tell good things to. Some of them he did tell good things to. The dying words of the final words of a dying father. So I just looked up some famous or so words of people when they died. Frank Sinatra, the internet said he died and his final words were, "I'm losing it." Interesting thing. I don't know the context or anything, but he said, "I'm losing it," and those were his last words. Benjamin Franklin lay dying at age 84. His daughter told him to change position in bed so that he could breathe easier. His last words before he died was, "A dying man can do nothing easy." Michael Landon, you know the actor Michael Landon. He was Little Joe Cartwright, Bonanza, also known for his role in Little House on the Prairie, Highway to Heaven. He died of cancer in 1991 with his family around him in his bed. His son told him that it was time to move on. Landon said, "You're right, it's time. I love you all." And those were his final words. And then we think about some other final words from the Bible. Jesus hanging on the cross in Luke 23:46. His final words before he died was, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And he's actually quoting Psalm 31 verse 5. So we think about the dying words or the final words of someone dying. I have not yet been in a position where I have heard the final words of someone dying close to me. I have not experienced that. Maybe you have. Joseph will experience that here, the other sons, as Jacob dies. So let's move to the first spot. Really, if you read the book, it's a different experience, I feel like, reading the book and then me trying to teach the material. It makes a lot of sense when you read it the way that Justin Rogers has outlined it in the book. It seems to make a whole lot of sense as far as this point leads to this point, leads to this point ultimately. So there's not a whole lot to say about this point. We're going to just build until we get here. We're going to build the life of Joseph in Egypt, which we've already talked about a lot. And so we're going to think about Joseph in Egypt, his life, his memories back home. He's in Egypt, he's been sold into slavery. So just thinking about the power of memory of Joseph, thinking about his father in Egypt. And then he leaves Egypt in Genesis 48. He leaves, he hears about Jacob dying. So then we transition to this, thinking about caring for aging parents, because Joseph seems to do that. He hears about Jacob dying, he goes to take care of him. And we'll think about what the Bible says as a child and our responsibility as children to take care of our aging parents. And then finally, just leading to what are the final words of Jacob as he dies. And we'll look at some of the things he says in chapter 49 and 50. So that's how the book ends. Think about the power of memory. The power of memory. Memories are a powerful tool. You have good memories, you have bad memories, you have some memories that you want to forget. I think it was my dad I heard say one time that sometimes we forget things we want to remember and we remember things we want to forget. And he might have gotten that from someone else. I don't know. But that's oftentimes true. Memories. Sometimes we love them, sometimes we hate them. But there's even a song, I guess it's a hymn, Precious Memories, how they linger, right? Precious memories. Think about memories. Think about Joseph in Egypt. Think about, do you think that he had memories being back home with his family as he's away in Egypt and he's thinking about his family? He's thinking about, I'm sure he has memories of his childhood. He has memories of growing up in his father's house. He has memories of his mother. His mother did not die until she gave birth to Benjamin, Rachel. And the memories that I'm sure that he had from day to day, thinking about his time in Egypt. I want to read a few things that he brings out in the book. But we think about memories. Personally, we all want to be remembered, right? Is that true? We all want to be remembered. Somehow. We all want to be remembered. That's why, I think, in critical times, when we're sick, when we are maybe away from others, we feel like we desire and need thoughts and calls and prayers and visits from other people, because it tells us something that other people remember us, right? We want to be remembered. Imagine if no one remembered you. How would you feel if no one remembered you? Imagine if you celebrated a birthday. Nobody remembered. An anniversary and nobody remembered. The power of memory. The way that we as humans desire to be part of someone's memory, to be remembered by others. Imagine if no one remembered you. How would you feel? Imagine if in Jeremiah, I'm going to think about God for just a moment. Because in Jeremiah chapter 20 or Jeremiah chapter 2, God said that nobody remembered him, or Israel did not remember him. How do you think God felt when the nation of Israel did not remember him?
It hurt.
Yeah, disappointed.
Yeah, it's pretty tough words to read. Jeremiah 2 and verse 23. Think about these words from God. Is that right? Hold on. 32. Jeremiah 2:32. God said, "Can a young woman forget her jewelry, or a bride her wedding sash? Yet my people have forgotten me for countless days." Israel forgot God. There's a lot of different thoughts that I have with this. That's why I said we're ultimately just trying to get here. Thinking about God in Jeremiah's time. Israel forgot. Why do you think we then, if we could take some of these points to the New Testament, memories and remembering and how we want to be remembered, we want other people to remember us. We want to feel loved, and we want to feel like other people remember us in times of struggle or in good times. We want to be remembered. And so Israel forgot God in Jeremiah's day, Jeremiah 2. But let's carry some of that into the New Testament. Why do you think in the wisdom of God that he instituted the Lord's Supper to be observed every single beginning of the week, every single Lord's Day? So that we would remember. Right? We would remember. We wouldn't forget what he did. Imagine that he did not institute the Lord's Supper. Imagine everything happened the way that it did. He died on the cross. He just did not institute the Lord's Supper. How much do you think you would remember the Lord's death? How often do you think you would remember it? Your busy life. How much do you think about it during the week? Maybe you do from time to time. Maybe there's something that you hear or see and it makes you remember. But for most of the time, we get busy. Because I know in my own personal life, I get busy. I'm taking care of boys. I have a wife that works. I work. We have family time. We're grocery shopping. We're taking care of the house, yard work. We're busy. We're busy. I don't think about the Lord's Supper that much until I come here and I worship and I get those emblems and this is not what I mean, or if it sounds that way, but I'm forced, I don't mean it that way, that's not the word I'm looking for, to reflect back on the cross, right? So that I don't forget.
Not forced, but reminded.
Yeah, I'm put into a position with the church
Right.
to collectively think, to think back. I'm forced to slow down to think, to remember, right? The power of memory. Think about Joseph. All right. Anyway, let's transition. I don't know what Joseph was like in Egypt. That's what we're trying to build here, I guess. Joseph, as he is sold into slavery, and he's working in Egypt under Potiphar and Pharaoh, and he doesn't know anything about home. He just has his memories. He has memories of growing up. That's all he has. But then towards the end of Jacob's life, they are reunited. Jacob thinks Joseph is dead. Joseph doesn't really know anything about Jacob. But then there's this moment where they're reunited. And it's a beautiful passage or chapter when they're reunited. In fact, we're going to go there in just a moment in chapter 48. And we're going to notice some things that are said between Joseph, the son, and Jacob, the father, But let's think about caring for aging parents. In chapter 48, Joseph hears that his father is sick. He'll go back home. Anybody, I am not yet in this position to take care of an aging parent. My parents are getting older. I see them getting older. It does bother me. I see my dad struggling to walk. He doesn't walk like he used to. It's hard to see him. My mom can't walk like she used to either. She has to ride one of those scooters most places she goes. I see my dad forgetting things, talking about memories, but I see my dad forgets a lot. There's a lot of things he remembers, but then there's a lot of things that I feel like he should remember that he doesn't. There's a lot of things that we do together that later on I'll bring it up and he has no memory of it. And I'm like, how do you forget that? But he does. So I see them getting older, but I'm not quite there yet. I'm taking care of aging parents, but the Bible tells us that no matter our age as children, that we are to honor our father and our mother, and a part of that is to take care of them. To take care of them like they took care of you growing up. To honor them, part of that is to take care of them. No matter the age. And that was true in the New Testament, or in the first century. That was true. To take care of your parents as they were older. In fact, on one occasion, Jesus was confronted. This isn't in my notes, so I can't remember the text. Someone could probably find it and tell me, but Jesus condemns the religious leaders of that day because they have neglected to honor their father and their mother. That doesn't make sense if I'm just paraphrasing it. What is it? Matthew somewhere, right?
See, I think it's Mark 7, and then Matthew has another account.
Mark 7.
And Matthew also has an account.
Let's try Mark 7. Mark sounds right.
You're talking about
Yeah.
pardon.
Mark 7. Then the Pharisees, this is verse 1, and the scribes came together to him, having come from Jerusalem. Now when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is, with unwashed hands, they found fault. So everything that is about to unfold is because the disciples did not wash their hands after eating, but it was part of the Jewish tradition. Verse 3, for the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they wash their hands. Now that's just tradition. If it says that they're holding the tradition of the elder. So it's nothing commanded by God. It was just a Jewish tradition. And so they confront Jesus, but then Jesus turns it around on them. Verse 9, he said to them, all too well, you reject the commandment of God, that you may keep your tradition. For Moses said, honor your father and mother. Part of that, even in the first century, was taking care of them in their old age. To honor them was also to take care of them, even financially, to take care of them. And we'll see in just a moment how they got around that. It was almost like a loophole where if in their tradition they did something with their money, it relieved them of the responsibility of taking care of their parents. And that's what Jesus is calling them out on. For Moses said, honor your father and your mother, and he who cursed his father and mother, let him be put to death. But you say, if a man says to his father and mother, whatever profit you may have received from me is Corban, that is a gift to God. So basically, the Pharisees and the scribes, the way that they were getting out of this financial obligation to take care of their parents is if they committed that money that would go to their parents to God. So let's just put a number out there, $12,000 that would go to take care of their parents. Well, I've committed that $12,000 to God. And it's going to be an offering and a sacrifice financially from me to God. So they were getting out of this honor your father and your mother, even financially taking care of them, by committing the money to God. And Jesus is calling them out on it. Moses said, you are to honor your father and your mother. But you're transgressing that by committing that money to God and not. But anyway, the Bible tells us to honor our parents.
And in 1 Timothy chapter 5 also, where it talks about caring for widows, it says, if any widow has children or grandchildren, let them first learn to show piety at home and to repay their parents. For this is good and acceptable before God. And he goes on to say in verse 8, but if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever.
Yeah.
So it is a charge.
Yeah, so let's add that to the mix, these thoughts. So, and I think it wasn't that long ago, maybe a year ago, I guess, at least in my mind, we studied the book of 1 Timothy on Sunday morning, preaching through the book of 1 Timothy. So I remember studying that text. And so what Paul is doing is there was this not an issue, I guess, but in the church, wherever Paul is, was the issue of widows needing financial help. And so what Paul is doing is he's basically, he's sorting things out, and he's trying to find the widow that is truly in need, right? Because not every widow is truly in need. And so what he does is he basically goes all the way back to family and says, if there is a widow who obviously does not have a husband, that's why she's a widow, and so she doesn't have a husband to take care of her, but she has children. It is their obligation to take care of the mother. So instead of it being a financial obligation on the church, it goes to the children, right? So yeah, I think Paul's connection here is a great one, that it goes back to the children. But then he kind of works his way through all these scenarios that if there is a widow who doesn't have a husband to take care of her and has no children, which there's plenty of women who have no children, and doesn't have any children. So basically, here's a widow who has nobody to take care of her, not even family, nobody. Then the church, obviously, is glad to step in and help. But yeah, going back to caring for aging parents, it is a responsibility for all children, no matter the age. I know that it's coming, that Kristen and I have talked about it. Out of all the children, we may be the ones that my parents come and live with when they're older. We've thought about that. But anyway, we're thinking about Joseph and Jacob here. In chapter 48, we see Joseph's behavior, his actions when he learns about his dying father. I found an outline. I have a lot of material from my dad that he's given me throughout the years. Years ago, my dad gave my brother and I a lot of his life work on a flash drive. And I remember him years ago teaching on Genesis 48. And so I went and found some of his notes, because I remember when my dad took care of his aging mother. I remember she came to live with us. I have so many memories of when she was getting older and couldn't live by herself. She lived in Illinois. That's where my dad was born. She lived in Illinois. And I remember the house. I could see the house. I mean, I was probably 6 or 7 or 8. And I can still see the house, what it looked like. And I remember when we moved her down to live with us, I remember my dad and I, we left together, which was, man, the power of memories. Just me and my dad. But we went to her house to clean it out, right? You ever been there in that situation? We went to clean it out. And I went with my dad. And I remember going to worship with him up there. I remember, all right. We've got plenty of time. We have plenty of time. Anyway, I remember my dad said, and so if you were to ask my dad, he would tell you that as a kid, so my dad's dad was he drove a cement truck for a living. I don't know what else he did. He drove a cement truck, and anyway, he was also in World War II, and I think he was in the Navy. He was on a ship, my dad's dad. He was on a ship that was bombed by Japan. And for years, my dad had a piece of the ship, from the ship that was bombed anyway. So he drove a cement truck for years, but my dad said when he was a kid, he took this shoebox and put all kinds of stuff in it, like baseball cards and like Hot Wheel toys. And he put all kinds of stuff in this shoebox, and he put it in the wall at his parents' house in the basement. And shortly after he did that, his dad, who drove a cement truck, he made that wall cement. He put cement on that wall to kind of reinforce it, I guess. So anyway, long story short, later when my dad and I went to the house to clean it out, he remembered that shoebox that he put in the wall and that his dad put cement over. So he and I got some tools, and we tried to bust through the concrete to try to find that box. Who knows what's in it? I mean, probably something maybe valuable. I don't know. So we tried to bust through it, and I think my dad realized that it was not going to work, busting through all that concrete. And, so we gave up. But anyway, we cleaned out the house, and anyway, she lived with us for years, and I remember the day she died. I remember seeing her. Anyway, so I found some of his notes about taking care of his aging mom, and he said, I took care of my mother before she died. In some ways, it was like raising a child. She could bring out the worst in me. He said there were a couple of times that she didn't even know who I was, and it blew me away. Anyway, he said we are to honor our father and mother regardless of our age. So Joseph, just thinking about Joseph, going back to the text, in chapter 48, verse 1. Now it came to pass after these things that Joseph was told, indeed, your father is sick. Now, here's, I guess, where we're trying to bring this lesson home. There are some children who would hear that and not care. There are some children who would hear that, not do anything. Just keep living their life. Not go visit, not go take care of, just not care. I don't know how you get to a point where you hate your parents. I don't know how you get there. I know that there are some that do. I know a guy that I grew up going to church with who won't talk to his parents anymore. I don't know how you get there. How do you get to a point in your life where you feel that way? But it really should come. I mean, it is surprising, but the Bible even deals with that in Romans chapter 1, verse 31. Let's think about this in connection to what we're talking about. In Romans chapter 1, verse 31, I mean, in a whole list of sins, for this reason God gave them over to evil passions. For even their women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. Likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burn in their own lust for one another, men with men, committing what is shameful, and receiving in themselves the penalty of their error which was due. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind. So in this list, right, verse 31. Well, verse 30, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving, unforgiving, unmerciful. Now, I don't know how you think about that word unloving in Romans 1:31, but if we were to define it, it comes from a Greek word that means unloving, inhuman, unsociable. And it can also be translated, and it is by Strong's, hard-hearted towards kindred people. Hard-hearted towards kindred people. So the idea here in this word unloving, it could be anything really, but it also includes getting to the point where you don't even love your own family. That's pretty vile where we can get to that point. In that list, I mean, even in that list was disobedient parents, right? But also unloving. To get to the point as a human to hate your own family. But anyway, going back to Joseph. Verse 40, chapter 48, verse 1. Now it came to pass after these things that Joseph was told, indeed your father is sick. And Joseph goes. He took his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Jacob was told, look, your son Joseph is coming to you. And Israel strengthened himself and sat up in bed. Then Jacob said to Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, and said to me, behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will make of you a multitude of people, and give this land to your descendants after you as an everlasting possession. I want to notice a couple of other things that happened here with Jacob talking to Joseph. Just a couple of interesting things that he talks about. And then for about 7 or 8 minutes, let's talk about the final words of the father, Jacob, here. But notice in verse 7, he mentions the death of Rachel. He mentions being sad, the death of Rachel. But as for me, verse 7, when I came from Padan, Rachel died beside me in the land of Canaan on the way, when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath, and I buried her there on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. So here Joseph and Jacob, they're talking. He talks about the death of his beloved wife Rachel, which would have been Joseph's mother and the mother of Benjamin. Then he talks about verse 11. He mentions the fact that he thought he would not see Joseph again. Now remember, Jacob thinks Joseph's dead. Or at least he did for a long time, for years and years. I wonder how many years exactly, I don't know, that Jacob, the father, thought Joseph was dead. I mean, I can only try to relate as a father, thinking that one of my boys is dead for years and years. And then all of a sudden, to see him alive. Sometimes I think we read these accounts like, we read fiction, trying to bring it to life as much as possible. And I think that's how we should read it, try to bring it to life, because these are real events, real people, real events. And so when I think about Jacob, for years he thought Joseph was dead. And he talks about that in verse 11. He brings it up and says, I thought you were dead. I thought I would never see you again. But not only did I see you, I saw your sons. So he saw the sons of Joseph. Notice verse 11. And Israel said to Joseph, that's Jacob, Israel, said to Joseph, I had not thought to see your face. He says, I never thought I would see you again. But not only did I see you, but in fact, God has also shown me your offspring. So think about the joy of Jacob as he's laying on this bed dying. He's in his last days. He sees Joseph, because Joseph comes to his aid. He comes to take care of his dying father. But he also sees 2 of his grandsons, Ephraim and Manasseh, that he thought he would never see. But this is all important as we think about the last words of a dying father, because in chapter 48, before he gets to the other sons, he will pass leadership, his blessing of leadership, over to Ephraim and Manasseh. That's why you don't have a tribe Joseph. When you think about the 12 tribes of Israel, you don't have a tribe Joseph. You do, but you don't. You don't have a tribe Joseph, but you do have Joseph represented in his two sons. And that's because here in chapter 48, Jacob, which is Israel, passes this blessing to the two sons of Joseph. And we see that in verse, let's go to 12, 13, 14, just read a little bit. So Joseph brought them from behind his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth, and Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand towards Israel's right hand. I mean, just sometimes it amazes me how detailed the Holy Spirit is, just all you can picture it, which hand Joseph used and where he put them with Israel, and brought them near him. Then Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, guiding their hands knowingly. For Manasseh was the firstborn, and he blessed Joseph and said, let's drop down to verse 17. Now when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. Well, because he's not the firstborn. So he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. And Joseph said to his father, "Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." But his father refused and said, "I know my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations." So basically, the blessing that Jacob is passing to the sons of Joseph, he gives the greater blessing with the right hand to the youngest. And in that culture, it should have been the other way around. The firstborn should have gotten the blessing. But he reverses it because Ephraim will become... is it Ephraim? Yeah, will become the greater nation. Anyway, so that leaves us here. We got about 5 minutes left. The final words of a dying father. There's two things that will happen here. The first is the passing of the torch. The passing of the torch. He will pass leadership over to some of his sons, but also to his grandsons Ephraim and Manasseh. He's dying. And the blessing of God that he promised all the way back to Abraham, the making of a great nation, has to continue on. It started with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, right? This blessing has to continue on. And so he's passing the torch on to his sons, his grandsons, and it will continue on through the sons as the 12 tribes will develop and grow into a great nation. And then you read the book of Joshua, and they will conquer the land of Canaan as God intended them to. And so you have the passing of the torch. But then, let's see, we got 3 minutes left. Notice a couple of things that he says to some of his sons. Just think about his sons. Not only do we have the passing of the torch, but we have the professing of truth. There are some true things that Jacob will say on his deathbed. Now, depending on the son, you either heard something good or not so good. But we may already have some impressions about the sons going all the way back to selling Joseph into Egypt. They're not so good people. Now, maybe their hearts have changed over the years, but when we read about how they treated Joseph and wanted to kill him and sold him into slavery, we already have this impression of them not so good. And so when Jacob is lying on his deathbed, and for 2 chapters he gets to talk to them one final time and tell them about their future, some of the words are not so good, some of them are good, just depending on the son. Now, we don't have time to go through all of it, but just notice a few. Reuben. He was the oldest, right? It seems like there were times he exercised some good wisdom and judgment. He's the one that did not allow the brothers to kill Joseph. Here's the final words from Jacob to Reuben. Verse 3 and 4. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. But this is the character and the nature of Reuben from Jacob. He says, you are unstable as water. You shall not excel, because you went up to your father's bed. Then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. And so he says to his oldest, Reuben, you're unstable as water, and you will not become great. Let's see. He says to Simeon and Levi that they are grouped together and they will be known for their violence. Verses 5 through 7. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Instruments of cruelty are in their dwelling place. They will not excel either. They're known for their violence. Let not my soul enter their council. Let not my honor be united to their assembly. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they hamstrung an ox. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Not great final words to hear as your dying father talks to you. Judah. Judah though. This is the last one we have time to talk about. It's 9:45. Judah, verse 8. They will be given, Judah, you are he whom your brothers shall praise. Oh, so you shall excel as a nation. You will receive the priesthood, and Christ will come through the tribe of Judah. And these are the final words of Jacob to Judah. Notice how many times he uses the word lion. Just verses 8, 9, 10. He talks about a lion. The lion of God come through the tribe of Judah. Anyway, blessings of a dying father. Jacob dies. I appreciate y'all being in this class. I'm excited to have a quarter off. I don't think I've had a quarter off teaching in probably 2 or 3 years. So I'm going to enjoy listening to someone else teach. And again, open your LifePost app, look at the 3 classes that are being taught. Probably going to attend Mitch's class on Ephesians. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, any final thoughts? We're a minute past, so.
I got a question. Somebody questioned me, and I was like, "Oh, that is interesting." You know the Tower of Babel and why God shot it down, right? Remember? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Somebody said, "Well, he shot down a tower, but we have planes now." I said, "Yeah."
Well, that's
I think it was the intent
it
of
was
the
the
people,
intent
right?
behind building it. They were not. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, well, it was, but like you said, the intent.
But don't say things like that, because I already don't like airplanes. So I'm gonna fly.
I think it's funny when they give like safety speeches. Like it's like I don't listen anyways, because it's like if we crash in this pressurized tube flying through the air at super high speeds,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be alive when we hit the ground. You know,
Thank you, Dave.
and then it's like leave your baggage behind. You get in a single filed line and get out of the plane. Those on the exit row will help you. No, they won't. They're gonna be the first ones out.
They're not walking through the cabin going, "Well, this guy left his tray out.
Yeah.
Left his tray out. That's what killed him." You know, he didn't listen to safety.
Yeah, yeah. That's why we're not
This
paying.
guy-
That's why we're not paying out to his family.
He didn't put his head between his legs. Duh.